So, let's talk about something huge that just went down in the music world. We're going to break down exactly how a Filipino pop group, SB19, managed to pull in a crowd of almost 100,000 people for one single concert. Seriously, this wasn't just a show, it was a complete masterclass in global strategy. So let's get into it. This is the blueprint for their historic Wakas at Simula finale.
And look, to really wrap our heads around just how massive this event was, we have to start with one single staggering number.
Yep. On April 18, 2026, the SMDC Festival Grounds wasn't just hosting a concert, it literally became a sea of nearly 100,000 fans. This wasn't just a record-breaking number, it was a signal, a huge one, that the center of gravity in the pop music world, it's shifting.
And that right there, that's the big question we're unpacking today. How in the world does a group from the Philippines pull off a crowd that rivals the biggest music festivals on the planet? Well, the answer isn't just luck. Not even close. It's a carefully crafted blueprint of global thinking, an absolutely jaw-dropping spectacle, and a connection with their fans that's just unbreakable.
You know, it all kicked off with what a lot of people thought was a huge gamble. The first, and you could argue the most important piece of this whole puzzle, wasn't about the music at all. It was the location.
So on the surface, the move seemed kind of risky, right? Why would you leave the guaranteed success of the massive indoor Philippine arena for an outdoor venue? You're gambling on the weather, on logistics, on everything. But see, this wasn't a gamble. It was a brilliant strategic move. The new spot was just minutes from the international airport and all the major hotels. It was designed from the ground up to be a super welcoming hub for their global fan base, '18.
And the industry experts? They got it immediately. Analyst L.A. Dixon called it a strategic power play, which just confirms that this wasn't about finding a bigger park. No, this was about intentionally tearing down the barriers for a global audience. It was a calculated play to say, the world is welcome here.
Okay, so they figured out how to get the global audience there, but how did they deliver a show that was worthy of that journey? Well, they didn't just put on a concert, they created an entire world, a spectacle, that people started calling a cultural takeover.
And the scale of this thing was just immense. I want you to picture this. 4 gigantic stages, with the main one built to look like ancient castle walls. And then you see the group making their grand entrance on a custom jeepney-shaped float, which kicks off this massive fireworks display all before they launch into a triple threat of their biggest hits, Damn, What, and Gento. This wasn't just a big show. This was a production that goes toe-to-toe with any top-tier international festival out there.
But here's what's so smart. Even in the middle of this absolutely colossal production, they didn't forget the little, personal things. The show reportedly started at exactly 1918, that's 7:18 p.m. It was this subtle, brilliant little nod to their fan base, a'TIN, proving that even on the biggest stage of their lives, that connection to their fans was still at the very heart of everything.
But this concert, it wasn't just about ending a chapter. It was also a really powerful beginning. Because on their biggest night ever, SB19 used that stage to officially launch the future of their very own company, 1Z Entertainment. I mean, think about it. Right there, on that massive stage, in front of 100,000 people, they introduced the world to the next generation. We saw the debut of the boy group J2X and the official reveal of 1Z's first ever girl group, XONARA. We were literally watching SB19 transform from artists into industry executives right before our eyes.
And let's be real, you can't just decide to build an empire like this overnight. It has to be built on a foundation of your own success, your own hard-won global success. They proved their model works, and now they're using that incredibly powerful platform to give the next generation of artists their shot.
And if you want proof of that global success, tangible proof, just look at the charts. Their song, Wakas, recently hit number 9 on the Billboard World Digital Song Sales Chart. That's not just a local hit, my friends. That's a number that proves they have undeniable global impact.
So, when you start putting all these different pieces together, the global strategy, the festival-level production, the empire building, you start to see a much bigger picture emerge. This night really did mark the beginning of a whole new reality for P-pop.
And in this powerful, just perfect full-circle moment, after this epic night celebrating how far they'd come, they closed the entire show with one last song, Go Up. This was the song, the very track that launched their journey from total obscurity way back in 2019. It was just this emotional reminder to every single person watching of just how high they had climbed.
So ultimately, the Wakas at Simula concert did way more than just entertain. It created a new blueprint. It proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that a Filipino act can pull off a massive production that can rival any major global tour out there. For P-pop, this is the new standard. This is the bar.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final and really fascinating question. By blending this hyper-local identity with a fiercely global strategy, and by building their own independent empire from the ground up, have SB19 actually cracked the code? Have they created the new model for global music domination? Well, after a night like this, that's a question the rest of the world is now asking.